This is the High School Football America podcast for April the 5th, 2020. I'm Jeff Fisher. The High School Football America podcast is brought to you by GameStrat, America's premier sideline instant replay system with outstanding reliability and customer service and different plans priced right for every coach's budget. To get a demo, go to GameStrat.com or click on the GameStrat banner ad located on every page of HighSchoolFootballAmerica.com. And even better, coming up on Wednesday, April the 8th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, a free demo on Zoom for coaches. And if you attend, $200 off. Again, that's GameStrat. Go to GameStrat.com or click on the banner ad on HighSchoolFootballAmerica.com. All right, heading deep into the heart of Texas. Actually, we're almost in another country at this point with this call because Jason Strunk, our good friend, is on the line, the former head coach at Port Isabel and now the new athletic director at Manheim Township, back in his good old state of Pennsylvania, my state too. And Manheim Township, a great, great football program. But the surprising part of all of this is Mr. Strunk is hanging up his whistle after, I think, about a quarter century. And Strunky's on the line now to talk a little bit about everything. We're as everyone knows, Strunky, right now, these podcasts, it's football, but it's a bunch of other things to take people's minds off of COVID-19. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and hopefully we give people a good show today. Get them to laugh a little bit while they're quarantined with their significant other and ready to, pull their hair out.
Yeah.
Let's give a good show.
Well. Here's the first question. Everybody's laying low and sheltering in place, and you're out there working. You're moving around. I'm going to have to ask you in a little bit how the move's going to take place with everything going on. But tell us a little bit about why the whistle's going. Although you should never say never. Why is the whistle for now at least? And in your words, you'll never coach another down of football again. Going into the coach's locker and never to be opened up and taken out again.
There's so much that goes into it. I think one of it is getting older. And I'm 43, and I don't think I'm old by any stretch of the imagination. I'm still young. I'm still energetic. I still want to get after it. I still have all the energy to coach. But I've been doing it for 25 years. I started doing this, immediately. It wasn't a year of my mom dying while I was a senior in high school. So all I've known really in my adult life is working Saturdays and Sundays, watching film, coaching kids Monday through Thursday, a game on Friday night. I don't know anything else. And as time goes by, it's like, how much time have I spent with other kids and not my own? And that really, it gets to a certain, it gets at, a certain point, it hits you like, wow. And it hit me a long time ago. The reason I left Purdue, was because I wanted to see Mac grow up. I realized I was in the office at 6 a.m. getting home at midnight. I knew I wasn't going to see Mac. So I got out of that and it came to Texas. And it's been great. Coaching him was great. And spending time with him and with all the other kids I've coached. But now he's heading to the East Coast, and he's going to run track at the Citadel. And I want to watch him run. That's where I'm at in my life. And I can't be here in Texas and coach kids and fly to the Citadel and do all that stuff from where I am in Texas. So I'm going to go home to the East Coast and give me a chance to see Mac run in college. That's the root behind it. And obviously there's other, avenues that lead to that, which we'll probably discuss. But that's where I'm at right now. I want to see my son run in college. I want Kennedy, my 10-year-old daughter, to be in a good spot for a long time. And then my wife, Tracy, her health network is back there with her cardiologist and things like that. So it makes sense right now for us to do that and me just be a full-time AD and not run my own program while doing that. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's, it's family first. It's always been family first, as you and I know as friends. That's first and foremost. But, what goes into coaching, and I had a long chat over the last couple of weeks with some coaches like Noel Dean in Michigan, a Hall of Famer, and just talking about, the 25 years may be the max. That may be the new dinosaur because, the George Currys, the Mike Pettins, these great names that we know from Pennsylvania who lasted 50 plus years, man, different time, different space and all that. And, I'm sure it'll hit you come fall. I'm still thinking we're going to have a fall camp here, but it'll probably hit you at that point. So you kind of outlined why, Pennsylvania, which makes a lot of sense. And we're probably going to bounce around here a little bit, but tell me a little bit about, the decision to leave Texas, because I remember on past interviews, I've got it on tape that you said, "Nah, Texas is where I want to be." And you talk about family and all that, but why'd you decide to go back home? I mean, East Coast, the Citadels in Charleston. I'm just trying to dig in here a little bit. Certainly Manheim Township, a great program there. So go a little bit deeper for us.
So, I'm still, if Mac is running the Citadel and I'm at Manheim Township, I think it's still 10 hours, from there. Yeah. And people are like, "Oh, it's still far." Well, I'm right near major airports. You have Philadelphia International Airport there and Baltimore, was at BWI. They're right there. I can catch a quick flight and go. And then being in Texas, the thing I realized is everything's a drive. From Lubbock to where I am now is 10 hours. I'm in the same state, and I've driven that I don't know how many times. So I don't mind driving anymore. That doesn't bother me. But just being back on the coast, it puts me closer to him. It gives Mac the chance to, I don't know how it would work, but if he needs to come home for any reason, it's easier for him to come home. Yeah. Hop in a car and drive instead of driving across the country. So those things matter. And I always said, and here's something, you said something before, about 25 years being maybe the new mark to hang it up. I always thought I'd be Joe Paterno, Bobby Bowden, where he's going to have to drag me off the field. And George Curry, and even Bob Stem comes to mind. Yeah. Those guys coached for how long? I always thought that would be me, but as I realize I'm getting older, I'm different, but
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah. So I just, I went from coaching middle school football, coaching Division I football at Purdue University, to coaching in the Mecca, Texas. I've checked a lot of boxes. Yeah. I've done a lot, and it's just it's time. And you don't wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm done." It's gradual, and it happened. And there's other things that happen here. I love Texas, and it's a great setup here. I have so many friends here. It's a great state to coach football in. There's just other things too. I don't outside influences. What board member got elected? Who's in with this board member? Well, for instance, a new superintendent comes in. Now all of a sudden I'm a sitting duck. I mean, it's not fair to families, and you understand that getting into it. I mean, you get it. No one should feel sorry for any coach that happens there, because that's part of the job. But I'm sitting there thinking, why does the change in one person affect me so much? And I don't need it anymore. My family doesn't need it anymore. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. It's just,
it's pressure,
it's like college football. Yeah. And it's treated like college football here, and it's awesome, and I love it. But the problem is, we're not making $5 million a year. When those guys make a decision or they're let go, they're sitting on a good severance package. We're down here, one person changes, and now you're out. You could be looking at the unemployment line. Yeah. And that's the nature of the beast in Texas. And for the record, that hasn't happened to me. Not at all. I walked away on my own. I still had another year on my contract. I was good till January 31st, 2021. And so none of that happened to me I left on my own. Yeah. Now there's things going on I don't like. And I just said, you know what, this isn't worth it anymore. I'm going to go to a great place. And Manheim Township is phenomenal. From day one, the first time I met them, they've been incredible. And that really sealed the deal. I always said once Matt graduated, I'd go back to college coaching. And when the season's over, I looked into it. I talked to a few people. And at the end of the day, it was like, you know what, I don't want to do this. And sorry if I'm rambling, Jeff, because I know we're going to go over.
But I was going to take you down a path, because I think a lot of people, because there's a lot of coaches that listen to this. I mean, I would say a majority of our listeners are definitely coaches. I'm just going to be blunt about it and throw out the word burnout. And I'm going to ask you, if it is part of it. You mentioned, some of the difficulties. I mean, when you were telling this story about one board member changing, I just wrote a story this morning about Valdosta, America's winningest high school football program, right? They fired their coach after a 7-3 season, or 7, I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was 8-3 this year, and they still have not found a coach. And here we are in April, and it is I can say this because it's a podcast. It's a shit show down in South Georgia right
absolutely.
now. And so going back to my question, I just wanted to kind of get people into context of what you were saying. And the reason they don't have a coach in Valdosta has to do with the school board. It doesn't have to do with wins and losses and all that. It does, but it doesn't. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that goes into it. So I'm going back to the word burnout, right? Do you have burnout? Was that part of it? And if you don't, address the burnout for the coaches that are listening, for the signs of it, right? At some point, like you said, it may not be a light bulb going boom, but it may be a slow build up to that. I'm just curious, burnout affect you? And if it didn't, how do you have other coaches learn on what burnout might be?
So for me, it's not burnout. I could coach another 20 years, physically and mentally. This game is about the kids, and I love being around kids. And that's important. And when you're not in it for the kids, that's when you need to get out. I love being around them. I still get as excited coaching football as I did, my first year with Chris Gerhardt back at Nazareth. I still get excited about it. So there's no burnout on that end, not at all. What I guess you want to switch it so it's not burnout. You can call it wear out. I'm worn out with certain aspects of the profession, and it's not the kids, it's not the game. It's the politics and the adults behind the scenes that I've had enough of. And you just get to a point where you don't need that in your life anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody's supposed to be in it for the kids. You're supposed to be in it for the kids. And as you get older, you realize a lot of people aren't in it for the kids. And this isn't coaches or faculty or anyone else. It's the politics behind the moving forces, within a school district. I don't need that anymore in my life. I don't.
Yeah.
My family doesn't need to be treated poorly. You just don't need that, and so I hope that clears it up. I'm not burned out.
No,
I'm worn out with aspects of it, but it's not coaching. I love these kids. I can coach another 20 years if I wanted, but it's not worth it for my mental health and my family's health in general to keep going. And then having, a new person come in that shifts everything, to a way where it's heading to a disaster, and you're a part of that. You don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I mean, the whole thing is, I said, I wanted coaches to kind of hear what you're going through. But on the other side of the coin, the rest of our listeners are fans, right? And, fan is short for fanatics, right? And I just want to, because I know you so well, and you and I have shared a lot, offline, if you will, about the profession. It is the greatest profession in the world. You guys are making pennies on the dollar. Now in Texas, you're making a little bit more than stipend guys. But, I think I want to make fans aware of the fact that, what, folks, this is still a bunch of teenagers playing a game, growing up, and all those good things. And some of these outside things that you're talking about doesn't necessarily fall onto those ears on a regular basis. It's something that you guys all kind of come together and in a group hug talk about the pressures. It is not 1969 anymore. I mean, it's not. That's kind of where I was going with that. I mean,
and there's something I wanted to share with you. I'm not burned out. I can keep going. Like I said, it was back in 2010. I forget where we were driving, but I was driving and I was with the Purdue coaching staff, the offensive guys. I can't for the life of me remember where we were driving, but I'll never forget this statement. Our wide receivers coach was Brian Rock at the time. And he was talking, we're driving by, through a neighborhood, somewhere in West Lafayette. And there was a kid out front playing catch with his dad. And we're driving by and Brian Rock says, there's times I wonder what I'm doing and why I'm in this. There's a dad and a son playing football in the front yard. What are we doing? We're never with family. We're always here. What are we doing with our lives, fellas? He said that, and that has stuck with me since 2010. That was a factor in me coming home one day and saying, you know what, let's go coach football in Texas. I can see Matt grow up a little bit more. So it's little things like that. That's 10 years ago, Jeff. And that impacted me. That impacted me Manheim Township is a great athletic program, top to bottom. It is one of the best athletic programs in the entire state of Pennsylvania, all the way through. And that was really the deciding factor for me, with that and the great people I met there.
Yeah,
so
explain,
top to bottom,
I was going to say, explain where,
so
explain to the people where the community is and all that. I mean, I know, you know, but for the listeners around the nation, where is Manheim Township?
So it's in Lancaster County. And whenever you hear that, people, usually assimilate that to the Amish.
Right.
Yes, they're down there and they're around, and that's great. And there's country around there. But it's also one of the fastest growing areas in the United States, from what they've told me. It's 60 miles west of Philadelphia, and it puts me about 90 miles southwest of where I grew up. So it's a great spot. You're right in the middle of everything. I can go to Yankees games again, thankfully. I can go catch the Yankees tomorrow now.
Oh, I feel so.
That's a sure win. So
that's
I'll go
great.
to that.
Yeah, the Yankees. Woohoo!
Hopefully Matt Stepp hears this. Like I said, the Orioles. I'll go watch the Yankees in Birdland down there in Baltimore and watch the Yankees beat up on the Orioles. So we got to make sure Matt Stepp hears this.
Oh, yeah. Worry about Matt, not the Red Sox fan here on the other line. Yeah, you worry about Matt. Okay, Strunky.
Don't worry, I'm getting to you. I'm coming to you.
Here's a question. Because we are going to. How are you going to move? I mean, how are you going to find it? You can do online stuff to find a house, but really, have you thought about this? I mean, what are some of the things that you're going to face with COVID-19 and trying to move yourself? I don't know how many thousands of miles it is, but it's a decent jaunt.
It is. Yeah, I think it's the 1,400 miles, I believe, 12 to 1,400 miles, and it's a long drive. And things have already changed already. I was supposed to start there on April 1st. And I was going to go, and I was going to be up there, and then Mac was going to graduate down here, and the family would stay here. Then I'd fly back and forth and be at his track meets, and then fly back to Pennsylvania. We had it all planned. And then, boom, that's it. Blew up. So I'm working from home for them right now, and they've been great. We had some Zoom meetings, all week this week, so I'm getting to meet people that way. So it's been great. We're trying to make the best out of a terrible situation, and it's been good. So right now I'm grounded here at home like everyone else is, and we have different restrictions down here. I mean, you can't go to the grocery store on a certain day. It depends on your license plate number.
Oh, wow.
Day you can go. If your license plate's not a number, you can't go. They're not letting people cross the island. So they're checking you. There's police everywhere. So it's different down here. And then for me to leave my family here and go up there while this is going on, that wouldn't make much sense either. So right now we're just playing it. I guess it was week to week. I guess now you can say it's 2 week to 2 week basis.
Yeah, really.
Every time you turn around, there's another 15 days added or whatever, which I'm okay with. Let's stay away from each other and let's beat this thing so we can get back to life sooner rather than later. But I don't have right now. I couldn't tell you what the plan is, and that's crazy. I still have a house to sell in Texas. Lord only knows what the market's going to be like to try to sell a house now.
Yeah.
So you talk about a different level of stress. Coaching Friday nights is nothing compared to trying to move across the country. Yeah, with the virus going on and guys sell a house. So everything's up in the air right now.
Yeah. What, one of the things that we've touched on in the podcast with all these coaches and everybody saying the same thing, you feel so bad, especially with, I think right now, every state has canceled spring sports. And if they haven't, they're going to, as we know. Right. And certainly Mac has life after high school by going to the Citadel. But I was just curious how you feel as a parent about Mac not being able to take part in his final track and field season.
That's an interesting question, and I'm glad you asked me that. So right now, spring sports in Texas have not been canceled. We're not doing them right now, but they haven't come out and said, hey, we're done.
Yeah.
So there's still a sliver of hope. I mean, I don't think there's much, but they haven't come out and they haven't totally canceled it. But it's interesting, my son, and I say this a lot, Jeff. You plant potatoes, you get potatoes, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone knows what you get. So my son's a mini me. So we left his last track meet. I believe it was March 13th. I believe it was, and we were in Raymondville. And the next day, I believe it was next Saturday, I think that's when they started shutting everything down. I think the NBA was that week, and then we started. I'm pretty sure that's what the timeline was. Well, at that point, they said, we're going to shut everything down until April 1st. And I said to Mac, okay, this is what we're going to need to do. And he's like, okay, yeah, we'll do it. But I had a conversation with him, and he said, Dad, if we shut down for 2 weeks, I'm done. I looked at him and I said, what do you mean you're done? He goes, I'm not doing this. This is going to be intermittent, and they don't know what's going on. I'm done. I'm going to get ready for college track. I said, okay. I said, that's your decision. I said, I'm not, you're a young man now. You make those guys. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. If we're shut down, I'm not going back. I'm not going to pull a hamstring trying to rush to get back to win, a district track meet. I'm going to the Citadel. I'm a college athlete, and that's where I want to be. So he said
that's
that to me.
Pretty smart.
That takes the load off my shoulders. So I don't have a feeling on it one way or the other. As a parent, he made his decision. I'm good with it. It doesn't bother me one bit because I know I'm going to still see him run. And I know it's different for other parents where, softball and soccer and things like that, they were all interrupted. And I don't know if they're going to finish. And that would be hard for a lot of those kids who are never going to play again.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And I would be upset, really upset, if I were in their shoes. On our end, Max is doing what he's doing, and we're good with what he decided. But your heart just goes out to everyone across the country. High school athletics is the last pure form of athletics.
It is.
These kids just lost, and that's hard.
It is very, very sad. You and I know that a lot of people think that Mac is a mini me, but that's a pretty smart move. He might be a little bit smarter than Dad at this point in his life. No, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying it sounds like he's matured pretty well. You and Tracy did a nice job. Well, yeah. Tracy did a hell of a job. You were okay with it, but anyway, Jason Strunk is on the line.
Background.
Well, I got to ask you a question too, because the last time you came on here, and folks, our friendship has been reduced to maybe me texting him saying, "Why don't you call me?" Or whatever. But the last time you were on here, we were going to have you restart the blog, changing it from the turnaround, which made you famous. And by the way, I do expect the check in the mail sometime soon. The economy's in trouble, so I expect to see a little greenbacks or two in my mailbox. But we didn't really talk about it, but you couldn't blog this year, right. and I know there's some things that you can and can't say about that. But I would love for people to know, because there are a lot of people that write me and go, well, where's the blog? He said he was doing it, anchor's down, all that good stuff. What happened, dude?
Yeah, I love writing. It's a great outlet for me, and then I use that to promote our kids. Talk about our kids and what we're doing down here and share ideas with other coaches. I learned from a lot of other coaches that contact me with ideas on things they saw I was doing, et cetera. So that's a good thing. It was a good outlet. It just wasn't doable this year. It's just, like I said, I was hired by a fantastic superintendent down here named Dr. Lisa Garcia. Fantastic. She was great to our family. The CFO here, Johnny Panetta, was great. We had a great principal and Dr. William Roach. But all those players are gone. They left once we hired a new superintendent. So things changed here. And we have a great principal, Imelda Munivez. She was awesome. But new superintendent, and that's it.
Yeah, no, so, and I'm not going to take you too deep on it. I just wanted people to know, because, at the end of the day, I've said this, I'm joking about, you owing me money, and maybe I'm not really joking about that. But on the seriousness side of it is, you and I kind of grew up together as High School Football America burst onto the national scene, and you and I kind of connected back there in 2012 when we moved to Los Angeles, and it has become, it still is. I mean, a lot of the stuff that's up there is read regularly on a daily basis, and I just, wanted to thank you for doing that, and hopefully we'll figure out a way to get you to do some other things there and be our Pennsylvania, our Amish country correspondent or something like that. I'm not sure, but I hopefully you didn't feel like I was putting you on the spot there. But I just wanted people to know that it was not Jason Strunk that decided to pull the plug. Although, truth be told, he really didn't tell me that until he turned in his keys. So I was kind of sitting there wondering too. But anyway, that's
Go ahead. When I kind of disappear like that, People know something's up.
And you do that on a regular basis to me.
I do. It was just it was a year, and I'm glad it's behind us, and I'm moving forward. I'm going to a great place with great people. I can't stress enough how great these kids here at Port Isabel. They're awesome.
Well,
I love them. So many tears that day. I had to call everyone or text them because I can't see them.
Right.
And my friend and my son's good friends with all of them. And it was the roughest one I've ever been through, leaving these kids here, because they're tremendous. The community is great. They were nothing but supportive to us. Port Isabel's a good place with good people. Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's tough to leave.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about, kind of the mark you're leaving here as we kind of fall down toward the end here. It's Jason Strunk on the line, former head coach at Port Isabel and the new athletic director at Manheim Township. I'm going to keep saying that, so I save you here, Strunky. And no, but realistically, because you and I know each other real well, your W's, because you're very competitive, did not match what you wanted to do in your time there at Lubbock and Port Isabel. And I'm not coming down you on that, but here's the question. Mm-hmm. Based upon that, knowing how competitive you are, how you hate to lose, how you do look at the big picture, which is, making young men, making young boys young men. What did you learn about yourself with not maybe winning as many games as you wanted to win?
When I started as a professional, I wanted to win a state title. And when I'm walking away, my thought was I want to make the greatest impact on these players I can as a human being. That's how I evolved. I think that sums it up, with what I've turned into. And here's the thing, too. You learn perspective. I learned that at a young age. Was right there with my mom dying. I had a great run. I leave Purdue and I go to Lubbock High, and year 2 we have Lubbock High in the playoff. Well, you realize that's the peak for Lubbock High.
Yeah.
And it's not a knock on them or anything like that. It's just look at their last 50 years. They've had one winning season in 50 years. You have to keep that in perspective. Hey, chances of winning a state title are very slim, if nil. The chances of us getting to the playoffs again are very slim. Now it beats you up as a coach, obviously. But you learn perspective of that. We changed so many lives. That nutrition program we started, myself and Neil Tall, we ran 400,000 pounds of food for those kids and chocolate milk over a 7-year period. We got into the playoffs, and I'm content with what we did there and the relationships we built with those kids. I mean, they still text me. We still talk. It's a lot of fun. So you just have to look at Lubbock High as a portion of my career. It doesn't define it. I mean, just, like I said, just do your research and look at the last 50 years and understand what we did was pretty amazing. Yeah. With getting into the playoffs. I don't think they'll ever get back to the playoffs, in my opinion, unless things change there, and then they do something about the enrollment. But that's not for me to decide. That's just my opinion. They're great kids and they work hard. They come to Port Isabel. They had 2 head coaches in 3 years. I was the third set of terminology and third personality in 3 years for those guys. My first year, we're 1 point away from basically going 3 rounds deep in the playoffs. With a group I took over in July. Mm-hmm. Port Isabel's on the right track. We had them going my first year once they learned the offense. They've never run an offense like ours, that I brought here. And we got that thing rolling, and we had a good off season. Our freshmen went undefeated last year, and the JV team did great things. And we had 5 sophomores playing in varsity. So last year, our team went 3-7, but we were 4 plays from being 6-4. 2 missed kicks again. We lost our playoff game the year before. We missed 2 field goals, and we had 2 touchdowns in the same game called back on the final drive that would have allowed us to win the game. It could have been 6-4. Get to the playoffs, and we played Sinton. It's 28-24 halfway through the fourth quarter, and we're playing a freshman wide receiver and 3 or 4 sophomores out there against a Sinton team that's loaded. So this program it is a lot different than Lubbock High. This is a quick rebuild down here. Mm-hmm. They're pulling the right way, and I'm expecting them to do great things next year.
Yeah, it doesn't sound.
It's when you're a builder. Yeah, when you're a builder, you're going to take hits in the loss column. I've never taken over a program coming off a winning season. Never. Port Isabel is going to be there quick. And you kind of realize that, you have to understand, put your ego to the side when you're rebuilding programs. You know, I've never walked into a Highland Park or anything like that. Hey, here we go, we're rolling. I've always had to get down on my hands and knees and start digging and building and doing all that. But Port Isabel's there. You know, they're ready to bust out next year.
Yeah, and it sounds like the cupboard is not bare. Jason Strunk on the line as we wrap things up here today. Long journey we're talking about. We could probably go 3 or 4 hours knowing the two of us, but he's going to Manheim Township, the athletic director there, one of the top athletic programs in the state of Pennsylvania. He's going back home, which makes him happy. A couple of things to wrap up with. We kind of touched on this earlier about the pressure, about the, walking away, understanding that your destiny is not completely in your hands because of people. But for the fans out there listening that don't understand, and I'm not talking about you right now. I'm actually putting you up on a soapbox to talk for the entire profession because you're not shy to say things. And I don't want you to mince words, and I also don't want you to piss people off. But, what is it you would like for the parents that listen here or the fans to hear about the profession and the way it should be treated versus the way we know, not the majority, but a growing percentage of the fan base is acting when it comes to and I'm talking specifically about high school football now. You got a soapbox. What do you have to say?
Okay. What people need to know is 99% of our profession is still with great coaches that are in it for the right reasons, and that's to take care of your kids. That's first and foremost. Everyone, I've never met anyone where I walked away and I said, "Wow, he's not good for kids." They're out there. I've never, come across anyone like that. They need to know the hours that are put in. We spend more time with your kids than we do our own kids, and that's why I'm getting out as well. And that's part of it too. I don't think they realize that. If they do, they don't appreciate it enough, in my opinion. That's the biggest thing for me. The coaching profession is underappreciated, from the head football coach to head softball coach, anywhere across the country. They're not appreciated enough, and I think that's a bunch of crap. All we do is work with your kids. We try to point them in the right direction. I mean, we're father figures and motherly figures for these kids, more than what people realize, and there's just not enough appreciation for it. And that needs to change somehow, some way in this world of social media and everyone's saying, "Oh, we should be doing this, we should be doing that." You know what? Just go to the game, sit down and be quiet. Watch your kid perform. Just watch your kid perform. Watch how that coach works with your kid. Appreciate coaches more, because we're doing more for them than what you realize, and you should be more appreciative. That's what drives me nuts with all this. They come to games on Friday nights, and you got guys never coached down to football in their life saying we should be running the ball more. Well, what do you really know? Are you on the practice field with us? Are you out there working with us? Do you know that he has a sore ankle? Do you know that's why he didn't get the ball, 25 times tonight? And that's what drives you nuts. And that's just part of it, though. That's part of it, and you understand that going in. But I'd like to see coaches appreciated more, across the country in every sport they coach, because it's just not, the appreciation level is not there for the amount of hours that are put in to other people's, sons and daughters. It's not appreciated enough. And like my son, I've spent more time coaching kids in Plant City, Florida, Lubbock High, and Port Isabel than I have with him. And that's something I'm going to have to live with the rest of my life. And that's tough. And that's why I'm going to go and watch him run every meet at the Citadel if I can. That's how I'm going to make that up.
Well, folks, you just heard it, and I bust his stones a lot, but I also know he has the stones to talk about that. And if you have been one of those people that sits in the stands and says stupid stuff, maybe you should kind of take that little snippet there, put it on your phone, and listen to it time and time again, because I don't know how many times coaches across the country have told me stories, and you and I have shared a lot more stories because of our friendship. But, I had a coach the other day just talking about, having a player who was taking care of his brothers and sisters because mom and dad were in prison. Folks, these stories aren't one-offs, by the way. They're getting, unfortunately, more and more, so people need to listen to that a little bit. I mean...
Let me throw something in there, Jeff, too, because I feel bad for not mentioning it. Plain City, Florida, was one of the biggest influences in my life. Me going there was one of the best moves I ever made. And in my career, it's the biggest regret I have, was leaving there to go to Purdue. Not because I went to Purdue. I wanted to do that. But we were about to bust out down there in Plant City. I'm talking, we had a chance to win some state titles, I believe. I walked away from that to go coach Division I football. But what I learned in Plant City was kids are great. They're fantastic. We had 3 kids living with us in Plant City. 3. We took in 3 football players at Plant City. They lived with us because they had nowhere to go. They lived with us. And I don't think people realize what coaches do and the lengths we're willing. I didn't care about them playing football for me. I cared about taking care of them as a human being. Mm-hmm. And Plant City really taught me a lot. We took in 3 of those players, and I have lifelong relationships with them right now. All 3 graduated from college, Jeff. All 3. 2 of them went and played Division I football. You know, they were told they're not going to amount to anything. Yeah, right. Look at them now. That's what this profession is all about. So I have to say the influence Plant City had on me in my career was phenomenal. And I wish I could have stayed. I wish I didn't go to Purdue. I wish I could have stayed there to see that through. That's the biggest regret I have.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't have touched the kids in Lubbock and Port Isabel either. So you gotta balance all those thoughts off. Jason Strunk on the line, the new athletic director at Manheim Township in Pennsylvania, leaving Texas after a great run there. And I've got 2 more to go with. So here's the first one. You mentioned it before, the nutrition program. You and I had spent a lot of time when you were in Lubbock deciding how to make that a documentary. It should have been made. Right. There were decisions that were made that I stand by why we didn't do it, but it should have been done. You were feeding kids that basically, if they were getting 1 square meal a day, might have been a lot, right? And you talked about, I mean, the chocolate milk, that's more about working out, but we're talking about things that you did by going to a food bank there in Lubbock. Right. I have video of you personally moving thousands of pounds of food each day. I know your assistants did it with you as well. And quite honestly, at this point, we'll probably have an entire podcast on this because I really want to do this. But you set up a nutrition program that, you're calling it nutrition, I think, and you wrote about it for what you did for your players, maybe for on the field, but not as much off. We didn't talk. And I would love for you to, just take a couple of minutes here just to explain to coaches who are faced with young men that do not get enough nutrition at home, what you did and maybe how they can emulate that, because I think it was unique, right? I mean, who thinks of a food bank for a football team? And that's what you did. So I want to have you talk about that a little bit.
It was very unique. And what happened was when I coached football at Muhlenberg College and then Purdue, and I saw how universities fed kids. And I always wondered, why don't we do this on the high school level? So that's where the idea sprung from. So I studied all that stuff at Purdue, how we feed the kids and what it's doing for them and so forth. Came to Texas and said, we need to establish a nutrition program. And people looked at me like, okay, how do you do that? I don't know, but we're going to do it. So it was unique how we did it. And Neil Tull, he was the driving force behind it and the brainchild of this thing. He's a Purdue grad too, Coach Tull. Not shocking, he's very smart. So we started hatching this idea. And I knew from previous experience, you can go to grocery stores and pick up, stuff that's close to expiration date or expired. It's still good, and pick it up and bring it back and can still hand out. A lot of stuff goes to the food bank. Well, we started off with that, and then someone said, why don't we just check in with the food bank? It was as simple as that one day. It was like, oh, light bulb went on. Hey, let's check with the food bank. Okay. So next thing you know, we're there having a meeting at the food bank, and the things they told me were shocking. There was a pile of bananas sitting there. They're going to throw them away. I'm like, why? Because everyone comes here and takes the junk food. They don't take fruit. They don't take this. And I'm like, what? So, because they can only keep this stuff, and I remember, for 3 days. Once they get it, they have 3 days to get it out. And if they don't, they have to throw it away. I mean, literally pallets of bananas, Jeff. And I'm like, oh my God. So the thought of it was, because Lubbock High was so poor athletically, this is going to catch us up on the field. It's going to help us turn the corner quicker. So it was all about X's and O's and winning for all of our kids in all of our sports at Lubbock High. That's how it started. And in 7 years, it turned into, forget the wins and losses. This is changing kids' lives. They're eating. They're happy. They're getting food. Their grades are getting better because they're eating. That's how they've evolved. And it was just, Neil Tull and I we spent so much time. I mean, every day I was over there picking stuff up in my school vehicle and bringing it back, and we're getting it ready. it made such a difference on so many levels, levels I never even thought about when we decided to do it. And that's what it turned into at the end. It turned into love of the kids. From about year 2 on, it's like, hey, and we love them no matter what, but feeding them, they'd run through a wall for us. And that's where it all started.
And to this day, I still I think I do regret, if I can be honest about it, not really putting it out the way it should have been put out. I think you guys, you and Neil and the rest of the staff, and what you did just to go and pick up food goes beyond it. And I'll be honest with you, part of it was, I was fearful that it could affect you with the UIL and all that. And quite honestly, if that were to have happened, I don't even know what the words are, because I'm starting to get where I'm going back to my Pennsylvania roots with 4-letter words, but that's just disgusting. We'll just leave it at that. If that would have ever happened, but I mean, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We could have been shut down. Look at social media
feeding
today.
Kids.
Imagine
For feeding kids.
Yeah. We're feeding kids. And imagine, they hit Twitter, and let's say it goes viral. And then you read the comments. Oh, look at that. They're taking food out of hungry people's mouths for high school kids for a football program. That's what that would have turned into.
Yeah.
I know it would have.
But again, folks, I need to add in here, because I want to make this a little, I don't want to put it all on your back, but I mean, think about what he just said, folks. 3 days and the food is thrown out.
Yep.
So what would you rather have? Would you rather have kids that are hungry having food?
Right.
Forget that they're on a football team. It's ludicrous to me.
Yeah.
And like I said, it just
right. And the other thing with that, Jeff, is Lubbock High is a Title I school, and I think at that time 95% of the football team was free and reduced lunch. So they were entitled to food bank services. What we realized was a lot of times their parents didn't sign up for food bank services. They wouldn't go and get it. They wouldn't sign up. So we were actually doing it for the parents that wouldn't do it.
Yeah. And I can understand that. Maybe too embarrassed, but
whatever. Oh, sure. So. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but we were doing great things for kids for the right reasons. It wasn't just about football.
Yeah, no, I know that. Like I said, I just wanted to bring it up because it was something. It is something that's still in my crawl that we kind of. And again, I think we made the right decision, but that doesn't mean it was the right decision, because there are all these things that we're talking about there as well. Jason Strunk on the line. We're going to wrap up with this one. Since you do claim that you're never going to coach another down of football, and we'll see. You're 43. You never know. Noel Dean in Michigan, a Hall of Fame coach. He's 51. He said he was never going to do it. Guess what? He's coming back in. I'm now publicizing him on High School Football America. One of the greatest coaches in Michigan is back in the game. But anyway, we're going to assume that you're going to do what you say. You're going to back up the talk. So you're now let's say 20 years from now, sitting in a restaurant, just enjoying yourself, and all of a sudden you see over in the corner a bunch of your old players, and you get to eavesdrop a little bit. What would you like to hear them saying about Coach Strunk?
They got us ready for life, and thank God we encountered him, and we wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for him and the guidance he gave us. That would mean a lot to me.
That's a good way to wrap this up, my friend. Stay safe down there, you, Tracy, Mack, and Kennedy. And I think we're going to make – that's what we can blog about. How the heck you're going from nearly in Mexico there in the southern tip of Texas and getting to Amish country. That's the blog. And guess what? You have complete control over yourself to write that.
I know. Can you believe that? A 43-year-old adult. I can make my own decisions. I was going to tell you, I love doing it, and let's think of a new avenue. And I want to talk about athletic director stuff and still help coaches and do all that. So I want to blog, and then I really want to get that book going.
Yeah, I know.
That book. You need to write it.
Well, we will do that. We will do that. We will do that. But I'm serious. I really and I'm gonna force the entire population of followers that found you as a result of your blog to force you to write something about this darn move, because I think it's going to be interesting.
It will be.
God
will
forbid
be.
we ever have a pandemic like this, but this may be
Right.
one for the history books there,
Yeah,
Teacher
and
Strunk.
I have it all chronicled so far. So
All right, well then
I got a timeline going.
Get to writing. You've got your marching orders, buddy. Keep yourself safe and healthy down there, and look forward to talking you down the line. But if this is truly the end, I can honestly say that everybody I know that knows you has nothing but glowing things to say, in spite of all the wisecracks that I make about you and the references to George Costanza and all that. Even though I stand by that, you are George Costanza. By the way, I wake up every morning now. Instead of watching the news, Seinfeld's on TBS, so I watch Seinfeld for 3 hours to make me laugh. And the more I watch that, buddy. You are George.
I am Costanza.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
All right, Jason. Well,
what is that line? Costanza, Lord of the Idiots. That's me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, T-Bone. We'll talk soon.
Yep, you got it. Thanks for having me on, and I'm going to miss all my Texas buddies. It's been great down there, and I love this state, and I'm happy to be heading home to take care of family.
And that's today's High School Football America podcast, brought to you by GameStrat, America's premier sideline instant replay system with outstanding reliability and customer service and different plans priced right for every coach's budget. And don't forget, coming up on Wednesday, April the 8th, 2 p.m. Eastern, GameStrat is going to be holding a free demo for coaches on Zoom if you attend the free demo. $200 off, and we all could use to save a little bit of money right now. For more information, go to GameStrat.com or click on the GameStrat banner ad located on every page of HighSchoolFootballAmerica.com. I'm Jeff Fisher, and you've been listening to the High School Football America podcast.